The guys from Bethesda also touched on PvP once again. Obviously, with this game being wholly online, every player that you meet is going to be another online player. PvP is a massive aspect of the game. They got a lot of questions about it, and they touched on a few new kind of examples of how the PvP system works in the game and broke it down for us into a bit more detail. Now, they touched on a previous point of the fact that you cannot engage in PvP until level 5, so we covered that in a previous video. We obviously know that until level 5 you cannot actually engage in PvP at all. But PvP and battles with players over level 5 essentially works like this. If you shoot an enemy unprovoked, you will do very small amounts of damage to them. Todd Howard likened it to a slap. You're basically slapping a person every time you attack them, every time you shoot them or melee damage them. You're effectively doing very small amounts of damage to them, which probably could become very annoying in the long term. They can then choose to commence a battle with you as such by attacking you. So say you've gone up to a person, you're over level 5, you start to shoot them, you're dealing very small amounts of damage to them. They can either look at you and say, hey, I'm not really interested in you, or they can turn around and say, yeah, I'm up for a fight, and then they start shooting you back. If they do start shooting you back, you then engage the fight. You do realistic damage to each other with the weapons that you're using, and in the end of the day, only one person can come out on top. So rounding all that information up, it essentially means you can pick and choose your fights. If you don't want to fight someone, if you know they're a higher level than you don't fancy your chances, you don't have to fight them. However, that doesn't stop them continuing to follow you around and essentially griefing you. You know, just following you around, constantly dealing small amounts of damage, which in the long term, even though you could say fast travel away from them, if you're exploring a certain place or you've got a certain objective that you want to achieve, if they just continue following you around and slapping you, it's going to get annoying. So they also touched on how you can deal with that if necessary. Let's take an example of you being AFK. If you're not actually in the game, you know that people can't do a whole load of damage to you while you're just sat there. If you're in a safe place and there's no animals around you that could hurt you, a player could effectively come up to you, and if given enough time, they could continue dealing very small amounts of damage to you to the point where you are killed. Obviously, if they're a high player and you're quite a low player, the health that you have is going to be less, so they can just continue dealing really small amounts of damage to you and eventually kill you. But there is a huge downside to doing that for them. Essentially, if someone follows you around and they end up killing you from dealing really small amounts of damage to you over time and you haven't accepted the fight with them, they become a wanted murderer. Now, the concept of the wanted murderer is similar to that of the mechanics in GTA 5. The more players you kill, the more your marker changes to identify you as a threat and shows up on the map. Essentially, when you become the wanted murderer, your location appears on the map as a giant red star. Everyone can see you, everyone can see the movements that you make, where you're travelling to. It doesn't stop you from doing any aspects of the game, but it does mean that until you are killed, you show up as a huge red star on the map for everyone to see. Obviously making things pretty dangerous for you. There will be a bounty on your head, and the bounty comes out of how many caps you have on you at the time. So if someone kills you, their bounty comes out of your caps. An interesting point though to where this differs from the mechanics of GTA 5 for example though, is that when you do become the wanted murderer, you cannot see anyone else on your map. When normally playing the game, we've been told that we will be able to see the locations of everyone on the map. That helps us in multiple ways, whether we want to collaborate with someone or whether we want to target someone as an enemy. But this time it doesn't work in your favour whatsoever. The people know that there's a bounty on your head, they can come and collect it if they want to, and not only that, they have the element of surprise now, because you cannot see them on the map whatsoever. To add to this, if the person that you killed, who was AFK at the time or was choosing not to engage you, comes back and deals revenge on you, they get double the caps, double the points for killing you that they would have done normally. If you do want to play the game by yourself though and do not want to engage in any combat whatsoever, you consider yourself a pacifist, there is an option in the game for you to remove yourself from the map, and it essentially engages a pacifist mode, like a passive mode on GTA for example, where enemy players cannot deal damage to you whatsoever, they cannot kill you, however you can still go about doing the normal things in the game, completing objectives and challenges, quests and all that kind of stuff, and also dealing damage to animals in the game, creatures in the game, monsters and so on. So what about what we lose when we kill or when we are killed? Are there any more details on that side of things? when you die in the game, you do not drop guns or armour. The only thing you do drop is the junk that you've looted or is on you at the time. Now, information has been made available to us about stash locations around the map that allow you to drop looted junk off and keep it safe, so that if you do enter a PvP mode, if you do enter a battle, there's no risk of you losing that. These stash locations are apparently in random places around the map and also happen to be within your camp, so you can fast travel back to your camp, for example, drop your loot off and then go and have a battle if you want to. On a lighter note of player versus player interactions, let's touch on trading side of things. There was obviously a trading system in Fallout 4. You could go to a trader and for a caps amount you could both sell and buy items from them, depending on what their balance was at that time. There will now be a system where you can do that with other online players. We don't have a whole lot of details on it so far, but we know that it will still be based on caps and you will be able to interact with that player and both sell and buy items from them and make trades. So during the live stream we got a couple more details about fast travel as well and how that's going to work in the game. Obviously that's an interesting aspect for us players. Dealing with a map which is essentially now a server and is live and has other people online using that server, it's interesting for us to see how fast travel will interact with those people and interact with the map itself. There's not a whole load of additional details to what we know already, but with a map so big, fast travel is going to come in handy and we do want to know as much about how it works as possible. The details that have been given to us explain the following. You can fast travel to any named location on the map that you have unlocked. The nearest location to you will be free, and then locations outside that radius further away will have a small caps cost. We don't know how many caps this will cost, but judging by the way the guys were speaking, it doesn't seem to be that expensive. I think we can see it being within the region of 100 caps maybe for the furthest place away. Considering the balances on Fallout 4 that you could grow by collecting caps over time playing the game, 100 caps is not a lot. I think my balance was at 26,000 the last time I checked. I mean, I literally don't spend any caps in the game whatsoever. There's nothing that I need. So if it's only 100 caps that we have to spend to get to the furthest location at the top or the bottom of the map, for example, I don't think that's a lot to ask. Some other important points to make would be that when you die, you can actually respawn at any location for free. At least that's what it sounded like. Entrance to the Vault 76 is also free if you want to spawn there, regardless of where you died or where your location is at the time. I'll quickly touch on private servers as well, because I know that's an aspect of the game that a lot of people are excited about. Obviously having your own server allows you to run the game with the people that you want to have in the server. It allows you to run the server how you want it, and also in time will allow you to apply mods to that server and essentially run a custom Fallout 76 game for you and your friends. Bethesda have confirmed that private servers will definitely be a thing and will be released as close to launch as possible and will support modding of the game in time. Here's a quote from Todd Howard, briefly summarising their opinion on private servers in the game. "It's a complicated problem, but one we are 100% committed to solving." We also have some new details about V.A.T.S and how that's going to be used in the game, because obviously using V.A.T.S on online players is going to be vastly different to using V.A.T.S on NPCs. Chris Meyer, the development director for Fallout 76, added that targeting will happen in real time when using V.A.T.S, so obviously the player that you're targeting is still going to be moving at real time. They cannot slow the situation down. You're in a server, they can't slow the server down for everyone. He also stated that you will now need a perk to target limbs using V.A.T.S. So if we go back to the days of Fallout 4 for example, you could choose to target the creature or person you were shooting at in their entirety, or you could pick out specific limbs that you want to damage that might be more vulnerable than others, that restrict their ability to move or remove their weapon, for example. You cannot do that now until you invest in the perk that allows you to. He also stated that you can still use it to locate enemy players when passing through the map. I know a lot of people use the spam technique where they just spam the V.A.T.S button in Fallout 4 to try and locate things as they are walking through areas of low visibility, for example, at night time. It does appear that you can still do that now, but maybe not to the effect of previous games in the series. The guys at Bethesda were also asked by fans how we're going to be able to deal with our settlements being destroyed if a nuclear bomb falls on them. Nukes are obviously an aspect of this game. You can collaborate with other players in the game to find nuclear launch codes, and once you have a series of those codes, you can launch a nuclear missile at a target of your choosing. You can now use a blueprint system that effectively allows you to copy or save your house or camp that you've made, and also allows you to use that blueprint in other areas of the map. So say for example you've built yourself a really stunning house, you're really proud of it, and the next day a nuclear bomb falls on it, destroys everything. If you use the blueprint system, you can save that house layout, take it to somewhere else, and rebuild that house as it was when it was first built. Another particular aspect I want to touch on is the music of Fallout 76. It was a huge thing for me and some friends of mine that were playing the game, so I thought I'd bring some details to you guys about what music is going to be available to us in this game compared to previous games. To summarise the points they made about the music in Fallout 76, a composer called Enon Zur, who produced all of the music for Fallout 4, will be producing all of the music or actual title music for this game as well. Beyond his music that he produces as the actual title sounds, there will be far more music available through far more radio stations in this game than in previous games. There will be a multitude of music available to us, and a lot of those stations will feature classic music from previous Fallout games, as well as new music and really wacky 40s tracks. So guys, that completes our roundup of the new information that's been made available to us through the panel of guys at Bethesda and the interview from QuakeCon. We really do hope you enjoyed this video. Obviously we're going to keep bringing you Fallout details and new information as it comes, but right now we're all up to date. So please do like this video if you enjoyed it, maybe you learned something new about what's going to be in the game. Subscribe to the channel for more videos, and we'll see you in the next one.